Hoy ponemos rumbo hacia Los Ángeles, hacia Beverly Hills. Vamos a conocer la primera tienda de Estados Unidos de MB&F. Conoceremos a Jeffrey, el director de la boutique, y a ver qué tal, así que vamos allá.
Can I get you a bottle of water? Have a seat.
Thank you.
If you were following, yesterday we launched the new icy blue LM Perpetual. Launched to the world yesterday. Actually 2 p.m. Swiss time. The announcement went out to the world, and I so happen to have received the piece.
Oh, really?
So I want to show it to you.
I'm one of the first ones to see it.
You are one of the first, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Be right back. So back in 2016, this particular timepiece was the calendar watch of the year as voted on by the GPHG. Up until yesterday, it was being offered with a green dial plate. We're now introducing this absolutely spectacular icy blue dial plate, so the green has been discontinued. The LM Perpetual Calendar. This movement was created by the renowned watchmaker Stephen McDonald. What's interesting is, I don't know if you know much about the complication of a perpetual. It's been produced for years, and done a certain way in Switzerland, whatever, and it was a complication that was known to basically break, because if one would try to reset the calendar, if the time was between 10 and say 2 o'clock or 11 and 2 o'clock, if you tried resetting it, you'd break the movement. And so, when perpetuals were sold, brands knew that, they'd get it back, to have to fix it or whatever. Stephen McDonald actually came up with this concept where if you try to set it between 11 and 2 o'clock, it won't let you. So you then have to change the time in order to set it. But here you have the time at the 12 o'clock position. You have the day of the week, the date, the month. You have the leap year indicator at the 7 o'clock position, and the power reserve indicator between 4 and 5 o'clock. And this icy blue dial, I just think, is absolutely spectacular. And then, of course, the beautiful exhibition back. And Stephen McDonald actually signed the movement at the very bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Is that beautiful?
I could watch it for hours.
Look at this. It's gorgeous. And this was officially announced to the entire world yesterday.
Here we have it.
This is another collaboration with Lepe, 1839, called The Fifth Element, which you have actually, these can disengage, so you can place these wherever, but you have the clock, temperature, humidity, and barometer. And then this is called, again, the fifth element, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth element, actually, is the alien astronaut Ross, who circles, making sure everything on this intergalactic space station works properly. And this is actually one of only 18 pieces produced in the world. As you noticed, these again are Max's designs, and he collaborated with a brand in Switzerland called Rouge, which is considered the most renowned music box maker in the world. And these are actually what we call music machines. So each of the tubes contain 3 songs that will play between 32 and 35 seconds. And should somebody purchase one of these machines, they can actually request their own songs to be put on these tubes.
That one is my favorite, the red one.
Yeah. I love that color too. Over here you have a collaboration. It's called the Astrograph. And believe it or not, this is the launch pad with the little rocket. And this little rocket is actually a fountain pen, which is beautiful. It's high gloss rhodium, and then of course you can have and store your little rocket pen right there as well. So here we have the HM7 Aquapod. Now the story behind this particular piece, of course, as a creator, you have to get inspiration from somewhere. The story goes that I guess Max's wife was actually stung by a jellyfish, got inspired to create a timepiece that was very jellyfish-like. So this particular piece in red is platinum. You have the 60-second tourbillon in the center. It will glow, superluminova, and then you have the rotating discs that tell the time. So if you see the red arrow at the 6 o'clock position, that's where the time would register down. I don't know if you know the whole story. So when MB&F started in 2005, Max talks about from 2005 to 2011, he created only what we call horological machines, or HM machines, where he really said that for those first few years he really played on his childhood, his childlike creativity, imagination, etc. So this is actually the HM9 Flow, which is very much inspired by automobiles. There's also maybe a touch of aviation in there, but you have the operating balance wheels that you can see fully operating. And what's really cool too is they play off each other. So if one is working a little bit slower, the other one will pick up the speed to keep everything accurate. And as a driver, you would never have to move your hand off the steering wheel. You see, you would be driving and you tell the time right there.
That's cool.
So very, very special, especially for someone who loves cars and loves to drive, etc. And this is red gold. So then in 2011, Max created his first legacy machine, or LM. And there he talks about finally growing up and wanting to really celebrate the great watchmakers of the last century. So for us, most of the legacy machines are round, so they do tend to be more traditional for MB&F, but certainly not for the rest of the watchmaking world, never traditional. This you have here, the Flying T. So you actually have the flying tourbillon in the center. You have the Tiger Eye dial plate. The place you would read the time is actually at the 7 o'clock position, if you can see the small little dial there. And then, of course, they say diamonds are a girl's best friend. So you have some beautifully set pave diamonds. It has, I don't know if you can see it because it's wrapped up, sunburst rotor in the back. And here is our HM10 Bulldog. This one produced in titanium, and literally it's designed like a bulldog. It has the 2 ears. You have the bulging eyes where you would tell the time, hours and minutes, and the ears are actually the lugs where the strap is connected to. And then the power reserve indicator, ready for this, under the case there is a set of jaws, and that's the power reserve indicator. So when this timepiece is fully wound, the jaws are wide open, and then as power is dispersed, the jaws will slowly close. What's interesting is it was during that time of 2021 that Max came to the realization that most of his friends and family couldn't afford any of his creations, and it really bothered him. So he, along with the team in Geneva, came up with the idea of creating something different. It wouldn't be an MB&F, and they came up, or Max created this timepiece called the MAD 1, which stands for Mechanical Art Devices. And what he did here is he took a Miyota Japanese movement and flipped it from the back to the front. So here you have the rotor. Let me get it going for you. There you go. So you have the rotor, and then you tell the time on these aluminum rotating discs. So in 2021, he created the first version of this timepiece and produced it in blue. And he produced about 400 pieces. So then he was thinking, okay, who would be interested in buying them? When somebody invests in an MB&F timepiece, you immediately become what's referred to as a member of the tribe. So he turned to all of the people that had supported MB&F. So he turns to the tribe and he said, hey, I created this very, very affordable timepiece called the Mad One. It's not an MB&F, but it's a fun watch and it's very affordable. In 2021, I believe he was selling it for 2,900 Swiss francs. So he said to the tribe, hey, you might want to wear it, you might want to give it as a gift, whatever. So he sold some to the tribe. He also turned to his friends and also suppliers of MB&F, made the same offer. And then the balance of the 400 pieces, he felt the fairest way to sell them would be to all the people that had shown interest in the brand, people that would visit the website, whatever. So he decided to sell the balance via lottery. So people could enter their name one time, that's it. If you tried more than once, you'd be bounced out. And he sold the balance of the 400 pieces. 2022, he changed the color to red, and he produced 1,500 pieces. And over 20,000 people put their name in on the website for those 1,500 pieces. And then this green, actually, the lottery closed September 26th. Again, he produced 1,500 pieces. Over 30,000 people put their name in. And I want to go on record that I had to put my name in.
Really?
Yes. My name in, and literally my name was selected. Max made it very clear to me that there was no manipulation. They actually had bailiffs present when they were pulling names to make sure everything was above board, so to speak. But I was one of the lucky ones to be given the opportunity to purchase this. So US dollars, this was around 3,200 US dollars. I joined the company July 15th and was sent immediately to Geneva, where I spent a week getting to meet Max. And we were getting the boutique ready. And then our official grand opening, like I said, was November 29th. Max actually came in from Geneva, and it's been fabulous ever since. I'm an East Coast guy. I grew up on the East Coast. I actually grew up in Boston, but then spent many years, about 20 years in New York City, where I was an executive in the fashion industry, and never ever thought about moving to the West Coast. In fact, the last company I worked for when I was in New York was based in LA. So I used to come out to LA about at least 5 times a year, but never had a desire to move here and love New York until I met a young lady from Los Angeles. And we've been back here, or I've been living here now 12 years. I do live here in Beverly Hills. When I left New York and left my fashion career behind, I had to reinvent myself. And it was actually when I moved to Phoenix, Arizona from New York that I was recruited and hired by Omega Timepieces. So that was my first foray into the world of watches. And I opened their first boutique in Scottsdale, Arizona. And a year after I opened it, my boss at the time called me one day and said, would I consider moving to Los Angeles? So Omega wound up moving us to LA, where I became the West Coast District Manager for Omega. And I spent almost 3 years with them, and then I was recruited, believe it or not, by Nespresso. They were about to open here in Beverly Hills the largest footprint in the United States, and I opened back in October of 2013 the Nespresso flagship, which was 7,500 square feet. We had a full-service cafe.
Oh, wow, here?
A block over on North Beverly.
It's still open?
They downsized. I wound up leaving them in November of 2018, and shortly after they downsized. Because my location had a full-service cafe, they eventually decided they didn't want to have the restaurant, because basically they sell coffee and machines. That's the business. So they do have a small location on North Beverly, but not like our place was just spectacular. After I left Nespresso, I started a consulting business called Who You Know, Inc., where I would connect people that had ideas, business ideas, etc. And then, of course, COVID came. And I basically stayed home for 2 years. And then eventually I was getting bored after COVID happened, and I wound up interviewing with Louis Vuitton. They were looking for an expert in timepieces. And at the same time, I heard about this opportunity. And unfortunately, by the time Westheim contacted me, I had already accepted the role at Louis Vuitton. So I worked at Louis Vuitton across the street for about 9 months until last March. I wound up having to have foot surgery. And I wound up having to take a medical leave from Louis Vuitton to recover. And it was during the recovery time that I decided to reach out to the Westheim people. And lo and behold, they had not opened this yet, and one thing led to another, and I wound up being hired by them, and I didn't go back to Louis Vuitton. I was, hired to be here.
Oh wow!
So that's pretty much
that's
my
impressive.
Story.
Yeah,
it's really a story about timing, and that saying, when something is meant to be, it'll find a way of being. And I feel very, very fortunate, but also I'm honored.
Hasta aquí el día de hoy. He ido a comer, he ido también luego a Vacheron, a AP, a Richard Mille, pero no se podía grabar y tampoco había mucho que enseñar. Y nada, muy agradecido a Jeffrey por enseñarnos la MB&F Lab, como dicen ellos, la boutique. Hemos podido ver el LM Perpetual Evo Blue, que justo se anunció ayer por la tarde, así que ha sido una primicia. MB&F es una de las marcas independientes que más me gustan. De hecho, hablé de ella en un vídeo anterior. Así que nada, agradecer a Jeffrey por su hospitalidad y recibirnos también. Y habréis visto todo, desde piezas únicas hasta la historia personal de Jeffrey, así como la historia de la marca, que contada por el propio director de la tienda, de la única tienda de Estados Unidos de MB&F, es todo un honor. Me despido desde aquí, Beverly Hills, y nada, nos vemos en el próximo vídeo. Chao.